Bette Midler was born on December 1st, 1945, in Honolulu, Hawaii, to Ruth and Fred Midler. Her mother was a homemaker, and her father worked as a house painter on U.S. Navy bases. The family didn't have much money, but that wasn't the only thing that made her childhood difficult. The real struggle, Bette later said, was feeling like an outsider. She was painfully shy and had a hard time fitting in. With few friends, she spent a lot of time alone in nature, something that, ironically, helped her develop her sense of individuality, charisma, and the need to stand out. By her teenage years, everything started to change. Bette came out of her shell. She began entering talent shows, acting in school plays, and throwing herself into social life. In the 1961 school council elections, she was voted most talkative, and by graduation in 1963, she was named most dramatic. She already knew what she wanted, to become an actress and move to New York. But money was tight, so she stayed in Hawaii and enrolled at the University of Hawaii at Manoa to study drama. Her heart wasn't really in it. She saw it more as a waiting game than a career path. Then came her break. After just 3 semesters, Bette landed a small, uncredited role in the 1966 film Hawaii, playing a seasick passenger named Miss David Buff. The paycheck was enough to fund her escape. She dropped out and headed straight for New York. Arriving, she began studying at UTA Hagen's HB Studio, and quickly hustled her way through small gigs, children's plays, underground cabaret acts, anything she could find. Within a year, she joined the Broadway cast of Fiddler on the Roof, a huge step for any young actor. But ensemble roles left her buried behind the leads, and her vibrant, offbeat personality had no room to shine. So she pivoted. In 1970, Midler started performing at the Continental Baths, a gay bathhouse in the basement of the Ansonia Hotel. The audience was rowdy, the space unconventional, but it was here that she found her voice. She teamed up with a then unknown pianist named Barry Manilow, and together they created something unique, a blend of camp, nostalgia, and emotional rawness. Midler performed under the alter ego, the Divine Miss M, and over time built a devoted following. Manilow, struck by her charisma, arranged an audition at Atlantic Records and eventually produced her debut album. That debut, The Divine Miss M, dropped in 1972. And it wasn't just a hit, it was a declaration. Midler's first album wasn't just a collection of songs, it was a full-blown performance. Vintage covers like Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy and Do You Want to Dance sat side by side with aching ballads like Hello in There and Am I Blue. It blended cabaret, soul, and pop with theatrical flair, emotional depth, and razor-sharp wit. Thanks to Manilow's bold production, the sound felt both classic and cutting edge. The public loved it. The album went platinum, landed in the Billboard Top 10, and won her the Grammy for Best New Artist in 1973. Midler had arrived, not just as a singer, but as a true one-of-a-kind performer. Bette Midler solidified her place in the spotlight with the release of her self-titled second album in 1973. Unlike the extravagant and genre-hopping The Divine Miss M, this album felt more mature, focused, and emotionally grounded. It was as if Midler no longer felt the need to prove her uniqueness. She simply was unique. And now she was ready to show a more vulnerable, sincere side. The emotional centerpiece of the album is Delta Dawn, where her voice walks a fine line between tragedy and irony. One moment she draws out your sympathy, the next she makes you smile through the heartbreak, a signature Midler move. Another standout is her rendition of Skylark by Horace Silver and Johnny Mercer. Here, she dials down the theatrics and delivers a stunningly restrained performance, showing off vocal subtlety and control most people didn't know she had. The album went platinum, selling over 1 million copies. Bette no longer had anything to prove. Broadway, the dream she once chased, now welcomed her with open arms. In 1974, she received a special Tony Award for adding luster to the Broadway season, with a string of concert performances. Around that time, she launched Bette Midler's Clams on the Half-Shell Revue, a riotous blend of song, comedy, and camp that even ran on Broadway in 1975. Having conquered the stage, Bette set her sights on the screen. She started small, voicing a character named Woody Spoon in the PBS children's series Vegetable Soup. But it wasn't long before she hit a bigger milestone. In 1977, her first television special, Ol' Red Hair Is Back aired on NBC. Inspired by Frank Sinatra's comeback show, Ol' Blue Eyes Is Back, it featured appearances by Dustin Hoffman and Emmett Kelly. The special won Midler her first Emmy Award for Outstanding Comedy, Variety, or Music Special. By the mid-1970s, she returned to the studio for her third album, Songs for the New Depression, released in early 1976. This time, Midler debuted as a songwriter. But for the first time, the results didn't land. Critics were unimpressed, audiences were indifferent, and the album barely cracked the top 30 on the Billboard charts. Still, it laid the groundwork for her next chapter, film. In 1979, Bette finally made her big screen debut, not in a bit part, but as the lead in The Rose, a gritty rock tragedy inspired by Janis Joplin. Her performance as a self-destructive, drug-addicted rock star earned her an Oscar nomination. The film itself won 2 Golden Globes and a Grammy for its title song. Riding high on this wave of success, Bette returned to music that same year with a new album, Thighs and Whispers. It was her attempt to ride the disco wave sweeping through the late 70s, but that trend chasing turned out to be her undoing. The album tried to blend Midler's theatrical persona with dance floor friendly beats and sleek production, but the result felt like a compromise. Tracks like Married Men and Hang On in There Baby were polished, sure, but they lacked the emotional punch people expected from her. Worse, the disco backlash was already beginning, and the timing couldn't have been worse. Longtime fans didn't recognize the Bette they loved, and disco fans weren't buying her transformation. Thighs and Whispers flopped, or critically and commercially, and it hit her hard. Disillusioned, Bette stepped away from music and turned her full attention to acting. But unfortunately, failure was waiting for her there too. In 1981, Bette Midler began working on a comedy film called Jinxed, a project that turned out to be more trouble than it was worth. Tensions flared on set between Midler, her co-star Ken Wall, and director Don Siegel. The result? A total flop. The film tanked, and with it, Bette's once promising acting career seemed to hit rock bottom. Desperate to reclaim her place in the spotlight, she turned back to music. Over the next 2 years, she poured herself into No Frills, an album released in 1983 that marked something of a creative reset. No Frills was Bette's way of stripping back the glitter and theatricality of her earlier work in favor of something rawer, punchier, more real. The sound leaned into pop rock and early 80s new wave, and Midler took to it with surprising ease. The standout was her fiery cover of the Rolling Stones' Beast of Burden, which became a cult hit, thanks in no small part to a sultry music video and her unmistakable vocal bite. But the album also revealed a softer side. Tracks like Only in Miami and Say Goodbye to Hollywood showed a more vulnerable, grounded Bette, still emotional but no longer hiding behind theatrical flourishes. Despite its creative spark, the album didn't catch on in the US, though it found some success in Europe. Gradually, Bette made her way back into the film world. In 1986, she scored roles in hit comedies like Down and Out in Beverly Hills with Nick Nolte and Ruthless People alongside Danny DeVito. Then came Beaches in 1988, the film that sealed her cinematic comeback. Starring opposite Barbara Hershey, Bette played a lifelong friend in a tearjerker that gave her one of the biggest hits of her career, Wind Beneath My Wings. The song soared to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, went platinum, and won her a Grammy for Record of the Year. That wave of success reignited her music career. In 1990, she released Some People's Lives, a deeply personal, emotionally rich album that became the biggest commercial success of her music career. It showed a different Bette Midler, not the cheeky, over-the-top diva, but a mature, thoughtful woman with something to say. The lead single, From a Distance, became a global anthem for peace and hope, perfectly echoing the spirit of the early 90s and earning her another Grammy Award. Unlike her earlier albums, full of irony and camp, Some People's Lives is filled with raw, introspective ballads about heartbreak, longing, and the fragile hope for something better. Her voice is more restrained here, not shouting to be heard, but quietly reaching out to the listener. It's arguably her most cohesive and emotionally honest record to date, striking a perfect balance between theatrical artistry and sincere self-expression. Through the 1990s, Bette stayed relevant in Hollywood. In 1991, she co-starred with Woody Allen in Scenes from a Mall. That same year, she took on a dramatic role in the World War II musical For the Boys, earning her second Oscar nomination. Then, shifting gears once again, she returned to comedy gold in 1996 with The First Wives Club, alongside Diane Keaton and Goldie Hawn, a film that struck a chord with audiences and became a cultural touchstone. In 1995, she released Bed of Roses, an album that continued her evolution into a ballad-driven, emotionally nuanced performer. While pop trends were changing fast in the 90s, Midler didn't chase them. Instead, she leaned into what she did best: powerful storytelling, versatility, and a stage presence no one could imitate. Midler kicked off the new millennium with her own television series, Betty. Although the series ended after just one season, it was a highlight of her career. Until 2007, she appeared in several films, but after the release of her holiday album Cool Yule in 2006, which was nominated for a Grammy Award in 2007, the singer decided to focus on live performances. Her show, The Showgirl Must Go On in Las Vegas, which ran from 2008 to 2010, was a huge success. In 2017, she made a triumphant return to Broadway as Dolly Levi in the musical Hello Dolly, for which she received a Tony Award. At the same time, she was actively involved in charity work, especially on issues related to ecology and the preservation of New York City parks. In 2014, Bette Midler delighted fans with her new album, It's the Girls, where she performed hits by female vocal groups from different eras. The album was a retrospective of the singer's career and a return to the cabaret and theatrical style of her early career. But most importantly, the album was commercially successful and proved once again that Bette Midler is not just an artist. She is a cultural phenomenon, a one-woman band, whose voice and charisma are capable of touching people's hearts even today.